Bryan, you've been practicing yoga for something like 30 years now, so you started in the late 70s. Could you give us a bit of an idea, how did this all start in the US when you were young?
You know, I really feel like Ashtanga Yoga had a huge influence on this whole thing because I think Ashtanga Yoga became a yoga that people could relate to. Very strong physical yoga, you know, and it was an easy yoga to transition to from our normal exercise habits. And I started in Hawaii. My father, who was a doctor, had a back problem, and nothing was helping his back, and someone said, try yoga, and it really helped his back, but it also helped his mind, and he wanted his children to do it. So when I was 15 years old, he brought me to a yoga class and said, you have to do this, and this was the beginning, and there was no studios, but this was the house of David Williams, who was the first person to bring Ashtanga Yoga to the world outside of India. So I was very fortunate to be in this class.
So this has been something like 30 years ago now. I assume that your understanding of yoga has changed a lot within all these years. Could you explain a bit your development?
Yeah, first it was a very physical practice, and then slowly it became more than that. I started to understand that the evolution of physical fitness is mental fitness. It's hard to have a healthy body without a healthy mind. They're so connected. So, it's been a long process, where it just started to be physical. And then I started to look a little deeper and start to maybe cleanse from within me the things that were hurting me.
And how would you then describe the essence of what you're teaching today?
I would say the essence of what I'm teaching is to strengthen the benevolent qualities of the mind. This means the qualities that reduce stress, and enhance feelings of contentment and satisfaction and calmness and peace, and to eradicate the qualities that are hurting us, the qualities that create stress and disease. We're being told now by modern medicine like 85 to 90% of all the disease in the body is coming from the mind. So, if we really want to be healthy, we have to look at our mind, and this is a wonderful thing about yoga is it addresses this.
In yoga we follow, or very often it's written like in the Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra, this idea of a detached mind. Could you explain this a bit to something like me who still didn't really get it?
But detached mind means to be less reactive to your environment, so your environment has less power over you, to start to not create such a drama around what is it you're experiencing. So that experience affects you less negatively because that drama creates a lot of stress. To see what's happening and to feel what you're feeling, but not react so strongly. It's not about denying what you're feeling, it's about not creating a drama around what you're feeling. And then the intensity of that experience becomes less. It affects you less negatively. It's almost like you're taking the power away from the situation and putting it back into yourself. So you're not giving that situation so much power. And it's practice. It doesn't happen the first time. You start with little things like, you're walking down the street and someone does something mean to you and you notice maybe you start getting angry, and then instead of yelling at the person, you take a deep breath and you don't get so reactive, and it passes faster. So then and next time you get better at it, and then pretty soon you can go through more and more challenging situations without losing the balance of your mind. Those situations aren't affecting you and you're not building stress from those situations. So this is what detachment means. This is what non-attachment means. And you feel more powerful. You feel more in control. You feel more peaceful.
From all that I have written about you now so far and this experience today in your workshop, it seems that you're encouraging the people to follow their own truth instead of going what someone says is right or wrong. Do you think there's too much dogmatism in yoga these days?
I do think there is a lot of dogma in yoga. I think there's a lot of dogma in everything. So it's not just yoga. I think this is our nature. We become so accustomed to this over so many millennium of living like this that, it's natural that we basically brought our shit into yoga and turned yoga into shit, but yoga is not a dogmatic practice, yoga is not rigid. Yoga is about self-discovery, and there's nothing more unique on this entire world than ourselves. So, it's hard to honor yourself and be truthful and live authentically if you're doing it the way they want you to do it. So eventually, you need to, experience what you're experiencing and respect that. And so you break away from the dogma, and it becomes a more personal experience, and then it becomes healing because you're working with what you're feeling instead of, not paying attention to what you're feeling because you're trying to do it the way someone else told you to do it, who has no idea what you're feeling because your experience and their experience are completely different.
What would you do in your life if it wasn't being a yoga teacher?
I would be a paramedic, which is basically the guy that goes with the firefighters to the burning building and helps carry the people out and then helps treat them once they're out. So it's not the guy that's spraying the water, but the guys that are running in and bringing the people out. This is what I would like to do. Don't know if it would happen or not.
Online yoga is coming up within the last years in the US, but as well here in Germany and Europe. And what do you think of online yoga? I think you're doing it yourself, is that right?
Yeah, we have yoga classes online. And I personally think it's amazing. I thought of this idea 10 years ago, but the technology wasn't there yet. The computer was just coming, and so the idea was in the head, but the technology wasn't there, and now the technology is there to do it. And I think it's amazing because of many reasons. Many reasons. Number one, in all the big cities in the world, the traffic is crazy. You go to an hour and a half class, but it's at least a 3-hour experience, because you have to drive there, you have to drive back, you take the class. So a lot of people don't have this time. Then there's so many people who don't live close to yoga centers, so they don't have access to it. And then, there's a lot of people who want to do my class, but they don't live by me, even though they live by a yoga center. So this gives everybody an opportunity to practice yoga at home, and it really works because these are live classes. They're recorded live. So you put this iPad or you put whatever your device is, with the speakers by your yoga mat, and if you don't look up, you think you're in a class because you hear everybody moaning and groaning, you hear the teacher. It really gives you this feeling as good as it can be. Obviously, if you can make it to a class, I think this is probably optimal, but this is not reality for a lot of people. So this is a tool to help them keep their yoga practice strong and consistent, which helps.
Yeah. Awesome. Bryan, thank you so much for this interview, and have a great trip. I heard you're traveling now on to Germany, I think.
Yes, I'll be traveling to Bhakti Summer Yoga Festival and then to Munich and eventually over to Turkey for a wonderful week retreat. Yes.
Awesome. So then have fun. Maybe see you back in Austria next year.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to come back. Vienna is amazing. Beautiful.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.